Hey guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge. It's been pretty busy this weekend. This past weekend was our Thanksgiving in Canada. We had a good time. Ended up doing a fair bit of chores, helping out my family members and stuff. Got a little bit of stuff done around the house, and now I've got a backlog of knives. Today we're looking at the Ganzo F713M. It's the baby brother of the G713, and this knife fits my hand just barely. My hands are large, bordering on extra large, and I can just get it in my hand with the end wrapped around my thumb for that reverse grip. So, in other words, if you've got large hands or smaller, men's large hands or smaller, this knife will work for you. And if you've got extra large hands and you want a small knife, hey, you can choose this one or choose its big brother, the G713. There's a few small differences between the two. And one of the main differences between the two, the big brother and the small brother, is this thumb stud. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. What we've got is a backlock knife, G10 on here. You may have seen this knife, this exact same style, on another brand. I think, was it Schrade that did this knife? I forget who it was. I followed the story back when that happened. And the company that did it, bought the rights to sell the knife as well. I'm not sure who had this design first or not, but different companies can get the same knife legally, and it's not necessarily cloning going on. Sometimes there's a design that gets sold to more than one manufacturer. If one manufacturer like Ganzo back in the day was basically shipping to Asia, and a company like Schrade is basically shipping to North America, they can have the exact same design and not cross markets, and then have a number of different companies making the same knife. That kind of thing happens all the time. But we're going to look at this knife today, so stick around for the full review of this backlock knife by Ganzo. So there's a nice good close-up look at the knife. We've got a hollow grind, bead blasted blade, which some people don't like, especially if you live in an area where you've got either very high humidity or you're by the ocean and you've got salt and stuff. You're going to want to have this thing oiled quite a bit. Some bead blasts do create corrosion more easily than others. Where I live in North America, I live in Alberta in Canada, North America. It's so very dry here that bead blast is just fine in terms of a corrosion risk. We've got, I just noticed that screw's missing. I don't know when that happened. So I'm going to have to find a screw and put it in there. It almost looks like there's a little bit of residue in there. It might never have been in there. Well, I'll have to work that out. Or maybe they leave that blank in case you move your thumb stud over. Because you can put the, pocket clip. The pocket clip slides in between the G10 and the liner. And there's a little bit of a hole right there. It's kind of hard to see. With the light, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a tiny bit of a hole right there. And so it slides right in, as you can see there. But either side. So it's a right and left pocket clip. And maybe that's why they didn't use the screw, because that screw is only a pocket clip screw. It's not a support screw. So you got open pillar construction here. So you got two pillars there. On a backlock knife, very odd. Very, very odd. Yeah, so I don't think that screw was missing. I think they just, you take it out of here and you put it in this side if you want to use it. So there you go. I might put a screw in there anyway, just to make it look more balanced. I did get two of these knives, so I'll check the other one and see if it also came without the screw on that side. Oh, I got my focus off. Sorry about being out of focus there for a while, guys. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the other one. I've got two of this knife and see if it's also got that one missing. And if it does, then hey, that's just standard practice for this specific knife. So kind of weird. You got the G10 here, and then you've got these liners coming out here on their own. And I don't really like that. That's my first con for this knife, because without having the G10 making it a little bit thicker, it can be a little bit of a hot spot in there. Like if you're holding it tight, now my index finger wraps around there, and I get some lines right there of pressure, and that's kind of gets irritating a little bit. But under normal use with a forward grip, you've got most of your grip happening right here between your first two fingers and your thumb. That's where most of the strength is. And then your smaller fingers are back here, and so it's not that big of a deal, you know, with your basic forward grip, and certainly not with a pinch grip and stuff like that. It's just that reverse grip that gets a little uncomfortable back here. G10, just flat slabs that have got some CNC milling on them, so that's kind of nice. Nice jimping on the back lock release, a little bit of jimping here and on the back of the blade. The lock holds very well. It's a well-made back lock. No blade play up and down, tiny little bit blade play. Actually, no blade play side to side, a tiny bit of blade play up and down. That's this way and back, which is very typical on back lock knives. Cold Steel's Triad lock does away with that, but other back locks just inherently have a tiny bit of blade play. The blade itself is a clip point, because this is a straight line here. You've got a bit of a swedge on there. Really nice belly, long straight area. This specific one is the one that I've sharpened already, and I really like it. It performed okay from the factory. The factory edge is okay. Well, all of the Ganzos, the factory edge is okay. But once I've sharpened it up, it's working even better. You got a nice little sharpness choil right there. A little bit of jimping on the liners in here for a little bit of extra grip for your first two fingers. So it's a good, secure knife in your hand when you're going to use it. The thumb stud is kind of strange on this one. You got that longer hole, and it's got just a regular little slot there, so a flat screwdriver can get in there to loosen it up, and then you can move the stud anywhere you want. And it fits, you know, anywhere where your thumb's going to go to release the knife. If you're left-handed, even if you like the spot where it came from the factory, I would encourage you to take it apart, flip it over so that it screws in this side so that your thumb won't get chewed up a tiny bit on that. Because if you're using your thumb on this side with a little slot, it just bites a little bit more than it needs to. So it feels better on the side that doesn't have the hole on it. So I'm basically ambidextrous, so it doesn't matter one way or the other. I grew up left-handed, but I just took the time to work so hard to get my right hand up to par with my left. Sometimes there's some things that I prefer to do with my right hand now, just because I've made sure that I got really good with my right hand. And I encourage lefties all around to do that. Take your right hand and make it do stuff. It can learn good muscle memory just like your left hand. It just takes an awful lot of work. So what do we have? We've got phosphor bronze screws in there. I'll show you the inside of the knife a little bit right now. For those of you who aren't familiar how a back lock works, here's the back lock key, the steel part here, and it rotates on a fulcrum, and that lock fits right in that little slot, and that's how it locks in. Now, the kind of spring that they use, there's dozens of different types of springs. This one's just got this black piece of steel that's bent, and it puts pressure up on there, which puts pressure down right there. Of course, the pin on the pivot holds everything in place. And then you push down on here, and that takes the lock out. And it's hard to do right now while it's all apart. Things are just going to go flying. But you push down here, the lock opens up, and then you can fold the knife closed. And when you open the knife, it slides on there, and click, and it's locked in place. Pretty straightforward. And a decent system here with a simple spring. So yeah, you saw those phosphor bronze screws. Those are good. It's just a well-made, basic back lock knife. Let's talk about the dimensions now. I forgot to say, the writing on the knife is smaller than Ganzo used to do. I like that. And it says on there that it's 440C steel. So we got 440C steel on the blade, which is good. And G10 and steel liners and deep pocket clip. The sizes for stuff, I'm just going to read off the metric sizes, but I'll put the inches on the screen as well. The cutting edge is 7.5 centimeters. The blade length, so tip of the blade to the G10, is 8 centimeters. The blade thickness is 2.9 millimeters. The blade depth is 2.4 centimeters. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, 0.48 millimeters. And like I say, my target is for 0.5 millimeter on this style of knife, so that's perfect. It's a tiny bit thinner, which is totally reasonable. Now the grind angle, I've fixed this one already. I'm going through puberty, aren't I? Grind angle! The grind angle before I sharpened it was 24.8 degrees on one side and 23.7 degrees on the other side. Now that's way more of an angle than I like to have. I like 440C can certainly stand at 20 degrees per side. And most EDC knives, that's what I want. 20 degrees of sharpening edge per side. Handle length, 10.3 centimeters. And the grip area between my thumbs is 9 centimeters. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, is 1.25 centimeters. The handle depth this way, its biggest right here, 2.5 centimeters. The total length of this knife with the blade deployed is 18.4 centimeters. It weighs 103 grams, which is 3.65 ounces. So for its size and weight and everything, it's a good knife. I like the dimensions, the rate between the blade length and handle length, very good proportions. How much does this knife cost? At GearBest, which is where I got mine, and I bought this knife myself, $12.73 US, 16.68 Canadian, 11.21 euros, or 9.87 pounds sterling. That's as of the day I recorded this. The prices are constantly fluctuating and subject to change due to the value of currencies around the world. So let's just summarize. The unique features is it's a backlock with a funky design. I like that. I like it's weird with open pillars back here on a backlock. That's kind of odd, but it's interesting. The adjustable stud is also something that's very unique, the thumb stud there. The pros and cons, good jimping everywhere, so you can get a really good grip on this knife. Backlock is a solid lock. I like that. Pocket clip is very deep. I like, oh, I didn't show you that, but the pocket clip, very deep. I'll show you that right now before I continue on with what I like and don't like about this knife. So it's very deep like that, but as you can see, since the screw is high there, that's about as deep as you end up getting your pants, unless you've got really thin pockets. But where your jeans are doubled up like this for the seam, it doesn't go all the way in. So that's another con that I didn't mention before. You know, so it's not super deep in the pocket, but it's deeper than most. That's about 1 centimeter sticking out, less than ½ inch, or right around ½ inch. Just over 1 centimeter, actually. So that's another con, but not a big one. I like that they use Torx screws everywhere. Some of the older Ganzo models, so this is a 713. So the older models, like the really early 7 series and the 600 series, sometimes had different kind of screws. The reverse grip is pretty good, but a little bit hot up here sometimes. The cons, like I said, pocket clip with that screw, if it had a recessed screw, if I can get a close-up of this, let me see if I can, to show exactly what I mean. So I zoomed in. You can see the screw sitting proud there, and then it's too small of a space where my fingernail is. There's too small of a space there for your pants to go through. Your pants fit just ahead, so if that screw was recessed, then you could get a deep carry. And you can get different kind of screws, and you could change out that screw if you wanted to and have that problem be gone. So there you go. That's the knife. Is it worth getting? Well, at the price that it is, if you want a backlock knife that's going to do you well when you really need it, you know, this might be a good choice for you. If you live in a drier place, this might be a really good bug-out bag knife or a glove box knife in your car, because you know it's going to work when you need it, And the technology in it is, you know, older technology. Backlocks simply work when you need them to work. Is it a super fast deploy? No, but you can, once you get it smooth, this one I haven't used an awful lot, and I haven't adjusted the pivot yet. Once you get it smooth, it'll open up with a thumb flick. You know, it's almost getting there with my thumb flick now. But like I said, I haven't adjusted it yet. So that'll be fine. You know, so it's a good knife that way. Is it a good everyday carry to actually carry every day? There's a whole lot of other knives that cost around the same amount that Ganzo makes that I'd probably recommend. Actually, there's not a whole lot that Ganzo makes that are this price, but for another $5, there's a whole lot of knives that Ganzo makes that I would choose over this for your regular EDC. But if you really like the styling and you think it's kind of cool, then look down below the video. Down in this corner, there's a little black triangle just below the video if you're on a cell phone or a mobile device, and you'll see where my links are. It'll expand the screen. If you're on a computer, then down below this corner, just above the first comment, it says show more. You click on that and you can see all of my links and my other information. I've got an Instagram page, I've got a Facebook page, all that other kind of information is down there. And if you want to join my Patreon and support this channel and maybe win a free knife, there's information for that down there too. So thanks everybody for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all the good stuff you guys do for Canadian Cutting Edge. And especially big shout out, I won't say any names, but to a few of you guys who email me occasionally words of encouragement. You don't have a clue on how much that means to me. Thank you very, very much. So remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.